I want to explain this to you. There are certain events in human history as a whole when the clock is ticking forward and there is no going back. In 2019, they discovered that I had a tumor on my vocal cord, and it was serious. It was life-threatening. I lost my voice, and it was just as the COVID started. And it was just 1 year without voice, completely voice, every test. They could not find out what's wrong with me. And the Lord revealed to me in this time when the COVID started that something is happening in the world and it's not going to go back. And it's related to the coming of the Messiah. In 1 month, I wrote a manuscript called The Good News According to COVID-19 that is almost 600 pages. I was 850 pages in 1 month I wrote. I can tell you, I didn't write it, Hashem wrote it. God allowed me to release the first 550 pages. And it's the only book in our faith as Messianic believers. And let's not be caught up on these semantics. Messianic, whatever you want to call yourself. Christians, whatever it is, follower of the Messiah, that actually was endorsed by Orthodox Jews. So in the front of the book, you will see that 2 Orthodox rabbis, very well respected in Israel, endorsed a book that have the name of Jesus, or as I'm going to refer to him in Hebrew, as Yeshua, in it. That was a very important point. And they understood the message. And we're going to talk today a lot about prophecy. Now, when we look at prophecy, when we want to understand about prophecies, there are certain rules for prophecies that must be applied. And I'm going to talk about 6 or 7 that are very, very important. But before I even talk about these 6 or 7 that are really important, I want to talk about the chief rules that absolutely cannot be violated. And I'm just going to focus on two rules, because I know this is like a school here. You guys are learning every Shabbat. You come together learning prophecy and trying to understand, and I think it's wonderful. In general, Judaism have a position that one should not try to calculate the times. And this is Judaism position, and it's a good position to hold, actually. And I'll tell you why. Because if, God forbid, one calculate the times, and something happened and we missed it, it might cause some people to go astray. And that has been the case in history. However, when we start to see the signs of the time, the rabbis tell us that it is appropriate to start to look at the seasons and the time and try to understand them. And we definitely, on those times, Yeshua is making this point about the fig tree, which is very important. We're going to talk tomorrow about the fig tree in the book of Matthew, or in Hebrew, Matityahu, chapter 24. And it says, when you see the leaves and the trunk soften on the fig tree, you know that this is the time for the end. Now, the one question is, why did Yeshua chose the fig tree? He chose the fig tree because in the scriptures, for example, in Song of Songs, Israel is called the fig tree. One of the names of Israel is the fig tree in the scriptures. That's why always look at the signs in Israel. Our spiritual barometer should be about what's happening in Israel. Not necessarily what's happening in South Africa or in America, but in Israel. Why? Because Israel is the spiritual barometer of all humanity. And some of the things you see in Israel, for good, or as we're going to see today, not so good, you can expect to see in your country. Imagine that it's like a preview. What you're seeing in Israel, it's a preview. So we're going to look at that at the spiritual barometer and understand that, okay? Now, when we talk about prophecies, there are 2 rules that are absolute rules that we must apply. The first one, and we're going to see it in a minute, is the rule that King Solomon actually says in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, he says the Hebrew word Ma she'aya yeh, which means what has happened, going to happen again. Prophecy is always cyclical. Prophecy is never linear. If you want to understand the future, always understand the past. If you want to see the picture, the mirror, always look backward. The backward will tell you the forward. And not only that, in the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 15, the prophet says that the last redemption, and I'm paraphrasing it to you, you can research it yourself, will resemble the first redemption, which is the Mosaic. So if we kind of put Exodus chapter 12 all the way to Exodus chapter 20, where Israel received the Torah, those 8 chapters is a blueprint for the coming of the Messiah. If you really study Exodus 12 to 20, you are going to see that as a mirror. So that is just in a general way. Of course, I'm not getting into details, but just to explain to you, a lot of times I'm going to go back to some what people call the Old Testament. Don't call it Old Testament. It's a very bad language, and it's not a correct. There is nothing old, because the old is the new, and the new is the old, and they are one, okay? So that's very important for us to understand this. Now, the second rule of prophecy is a little bit more challenging to grasp conceptually. And this is what I'm going to tell you. Take a breath. And before you think it's blasphemous, I want you to think about what I'm about to tell you. Not every prophecy that is in the Bible have to be fulfilled. There are certain things that are written in the Bible, for example, the book of Revelation, that not necessarily going to happen. They don't necessarily going to happen. What do I mean by that? In the book of Jeremiah, you can read it, chapter 28, 29. Jeremiah the prophet explained to us that a true prophet of God is one who comes and he prophesies, and the only prophecy that have to be fulfilled is a positive prophecy. A negative prophecy does not have to be fulfilled. Just because we read something in Revelation, it doesn't mean it have to happen. It doesn't mean it have to be fulfilled. I will give you examples, many examples of that in the scriptures. But first you have to yourself the question, what is the job of the prophet? The job of the prophet is to prophesy in such a way to give a warning to the people that they will take an action and ultimately do what's called in Hebrew teshuvah. Repent, return to God. That is the ultimate job of the prophet, to see the people change the course. Okay? If everything he tells us is futile already, what motivation I have in turning around? There's really no motivation in returning. Think about Jonah, for example. He comes, he says to the city of Nineveh, 30 days, you're done. God is going to wipe your city. But he didn't wipe the city after 30 days. Why? Because the people returned to God. The people repent. And because of that, God changed the prophecy. It's not that Jonah wasn't a true prophet. I will give you another example. In the book of Genesis, chapter 15, Abraham go to sleep, and he tell him that his descendants will go down to Egypt, and they will become slave in Egypt, and will be in Egypt for 400 years. How many years they were in Egypt? Just a little bit over 200 years. But wait a second, he told Abraham it's going to be 400 years. How come from 400 years we end up in 200 years? The reason he says, I heard the cry. I heard the cry. And that is something we all have to understand about prophecy. God can change the time and God can change the seasons. So when we speak in general about prophecies, there are 2 paths for prophecy. And I wish somebody have a Hebrew Tanakh, a Hebrew Bible. If you have a Hebrew Bible, will be this, but make yourself a note. Isaiah chapter 60. Listen to the very end. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Is that the Hebrew? Thank you so much. I want you to put this into your Okay. Into your arsenal of understanding prophecy, listen to this. Isaiah chapter 60. Hold on a second, I need a little light. The vision is not good. Yeah, last verse. Listen to what it says. It's good, I got it. It's good. Look at the last words there in verse 22. It says, Ani Adonai, I am Adonai, be'ita achishana, which is very strange verse. I say, I will bring redemption, be'ita, in due time, meaning he's saying there is an appointed time for redemption, but then he say, I will hasten it. You see, there is a problem here, because if you are hastening something, there is no appointed time to this. So the idea behind Geulah, okay, when you hear in Hebrew the word Geulah, right? The Geulah is something that is dependent on human action. There is, see, in essence, it says, the redemption is going to come one way or another. One way or another, Messiah is going to come. I will give you an analogy so you understand. Because the scripture referred to the redemption, the coming of the Messiah, as a woman who is in labor pain. Now, women who had baby understand that when you go into labor pain, you can take a epidural shot and it can kind of start to speed up the process. Okay? The same thing is true about Geulah. There are certain things we can do that show you one course for redemption when there is another path. If you're really, really good, here's the way I'm going to bring redemption with less birth pain. But if you're really, really bad, there's another way for the redemption to come. Okay? So there are two courses for redemption, and the Bible presents both of them. So even when you read, I'm going to give an example. Let's look at the Gog and Magog, the war of Gog and Magog. It doesn't have to happen. Those things does not have to happen. If the people turn back to God and return, some of those terrible calamities that we're going to look at, Ezekiel 38, Psalm chapter 2, Psalm 83, all of those things, they don't have to happen. Therefore, that's why Teshuvah and the message of Teshuvah is so important. That's why the choices that each and every one of us make on a daily basis can affect even the heavens. So we have to remember those things as we're going forward, okay? Those are two chief principles, and I know it's difficult for us to understand because we read it and say, well, it is in the Bible. It doesn't mean it's have to happen, though, beloved. It's very important for us to return it. Now, so have I lost anybody so far? Everybody with me? Everybody's good? I haven't scared anybody off yet, okay? So with that being said, so something switched in the world on when the COVID came. What I would like to suggest to you that now the clock is ticking even faster. October the 7th came something tick on the world. I want to tell, this is the book, The New Hamas. This is my colleague in our yeshiva. His name is Rabbi Emmanuel Rodriguez. This is a picture I took in Paris, France. We released a book in Paris, France, a couple of months ago. Every day we get about 5,000 to 10,000 death threats, emails, social media, whatever. We have to get the police involved. We sense something different even as an organization. And I hope that you guys also sensing it. If not, you will. I promise you we will. Because guess what? Our lives as Jews has changed drastically. Even in my hometown, I have residence in Israel and I have a residence in the United States. I did a lecture in United States, swastikas. And I live in a very Jewish area. We see swastikas, we see threats, anti-Semitism is absolutely exploding. And the change in reality is coming to us. to all of us. And I want to explain to you why. Because the one chief question that you have to ask yourself is, who is behind what is happening right now in the world? You have to ask two questions. What is happening since October the 7th, and who is behind it? And then question number 3, how do I overcome those things that befall us? Look at this. Look at that. It says the state of Israel was given a rare opportunity to eliminate Hamas in Gaza. Only it is not doing it. Now they're telling us about, you can read it, about the readiness of the army, about intelligence. I want to explain to you, we had a golden opportunity that arose after October the 7th to do so. But we didn't do so. And the one question that you have to ask yourself, today is the 300th day that there are still hostages in Gaza. And you ask yourself the question, an area 40 kilometers long by 10 kilometers wide, how come we are not finding those people? With the great Israeli intelligence, where are they? And why we cannot find them? And this is an important aspect that I really want you to think about this. When we look at the things on the physical realm that is happening right now, there's always a spiritual mirror that is associated to the physical. And if we want to really understand the physical, why this thing is prolonging right now, and where is it heading to, and so forth, we have to look at the spiritual aspect behind it. Now, I'm going to tell you already not a thesis, because I'm going to show you October the 7th from the scripture. You're going to see October the 7th clearly from the script. There is a signal that has been sent right at this moment to the heavens. And you're going to see that is telling us that the end is imminent. Now, which end we're going to have? This is up to us. We are going to choose the end. But the end right now is imminent. Look at this. This is from ADL. This is the Anti-Defamation League. ADL record dramatic increase in United States anti-Semitic incident following October 7th Hamas massacre. By the way, all of those images you see is things we're getting every day. We had to shut down our websites even. It's so bad. Okay, it's unbelievable. And you saw what's happened in the university, for example. I don't know how it is here, but in the United States of America, it was just absolutely shocking. Paris, London, it's stunning. And because of our organization is so international, it's really had a huge impact on us. Look at this. Listen to this. It says, Israel are playing exactly according to the horror script of Hamas. Most of the families of the abductees were quickly abducted by professional protest organizers, and the rest who oppose unconditional surrender were silenced by the publicists of the headquarters of the kidnapped family and the media, and exerted public pressure that subdued the Israeli government. You have to understand something, that this thing that happened is leading us right now to a civil war. Israel is on the verge of a civil war. And that's why Sinwar is taking his sweet time right now to do anything, because you're going to see what's caused to October 7th. We cannot talk about October the 7th unless we talk about what came before October the 7th. Let me show you a picture. This car is a car in Kiryat Shmona. It's a town in Israel. We displaced in a city of, in a country of 9.8 million people, almost 10 million people, 150,000 people are homeless. All, just think about the percentage. Those are homeless people. This is the car of Dr. Eldad Kenan, who is on our staff. He came, he parked, he went to do a grocery shopping. This is the building of his daughter. And he came back, he went to eat falafel, do some shopping, came back. The rocket missed him, his daughter, by 5 minutes. 5 minutes. This is just the reality of our people. So they have been displaced now for, 10 months. They are living basically like homeless people. It's a terrible thing. The government is not are taking place. While this is happening, look at the images we're getting. The anti-Semitism rhetoric is increasing. All those saying Hamas are Nazis did not immediately draw this necessary conclusion that the war against Hamas should be also conducted exactly like the war in Germany. A war without condition and without truces, without humanitarian measure, without an artificial attempt to differentiate between the killers of Hamas and those not involved. And you hear this expression, free Gaza from Hamas. How many of you heard this expression, free Gaza from Hamas? It's a false narrative, brothers and sisters. You have to understand, when October the 7th took place, everybody was in the street celebrating. All of the Palestinians are pro-Hamas. On the other side, the West Bank, they have not held elections for 15 years. You know why? Because the Palestinian Authority know that if they hold election, Hamas will win. They have 90 to 95% popularity. So we have to understand, we are not wrestling here against people that you can reason with. And in a minute, we'll go to the Bible and understand all of this. But I wanted to take some moments with you to give you the physicality, okay? Now, the one thing that is very clear that we have to understand, Israel cannot defeat Hamas. I said it from October the 8th. We will not be victorious against Hamas without Mashiach. We're going to see that. There is no resolution here without the Messiah. Look at this. This is straight. I'm quoting Israeli papers. The Mouth is still saying elimination of Hamas. And the ends are already signing ceasefire, truce, fuel and food flows to Gaza. When everybody knows that most of the supplies go to Hamas. After all, the respite we provide to the murderers is the oxygen they need to organize to continue fighting. A position prevent victory and turn the war into another round. More destructive and deadly than its predecessor, but no more than a round. And even if in the end of the day they continue to swear that Sinwar and Daf are the sons of death. Okay? We all saw the news, what happened 48 hours ago. From Lebanon, Iran fire, Hezbollah fire a rocket, killed 11 children playing soccer on a soccer field. And those were not even Jewish kids. Those were Druze kids. You have to understand what we're dealing with. But we, as people who believe in the Bible, should have another thing, another angle to understand it. And we will. I just want to bring one more thing. This is Yossi Cohen. He is the head of the Israeli Mossad. Mossad is like the CIA. It's the top of the top. Now, we have to ask ourselves the question, with all of that I just showed you, how is it possible that we have a wall that have on it 40,000 sensors? 40,000 sensors that is being watched 24/7 by watchmen. How can it be that a wall like that is being torn like knife cutting butter, and hundreds of people are coming in? It wasn't one or two, it was hundreds upon hundreds, and nobody does anything. How is it logical? Something here is not making sense. And I'm not talking to you about conspiracy theory. I'm talking to you about this thing. I wanted to hear what the former head of the Mossad saying. They asked him the question, in returning back to the Black Shabbat, how is it possible that Israeli intelligence has failed in such way? That's the question that was asked him. Listen to his answer. Lo itachen. It didn't say it's improbable. He says, it is impossible. It is impossible. We all know how much the IDF is on the border. We all know that the intelligence and many other organizations We knew that we are there. It is not unlikely, impossible. We also knew that Hamas is planning it. So therefore, he says that our operation in such a level is impossible, so precise. It's been planned for over one or 2 years, this plan. He says this. So his opposition is something here happened that we cannot understand by human logic. And then they ask him the second question: how is it possible that the IDF did not come? You know, we have, I don't know how many, hundreds of military bases there. How is it possible that the IDF did not jump immediately when this has happened in the middle of the massacre? What is his answer? I do not have an answer for that. It is lo itachen. It is impossible. It is something that we will have to investigate, because I do not have an answer for that. Are you following what I'm telling you? We need to understand the physical, because the only place that you will be able to get the answer for those questions is the Bible. Okay? The Bible is the only place that we will be able to get this. Look at this. This is from the leading newspaper in Israel. Amman is the Central Intelligence Agency. Listen to the headline. The CIA told Netanyahu on January, in April, and in August, 3 times, that Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas identify great weakness inside of Israel, and they are planning a catastrophic attack. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? Israel knew that it was coming. By the way, how interesting it is, in the 50 years anniversary of Yom Kippur War. In Yom Kippur War, it was the same thing. We knew it was coming and we ignored it. So the question have to be asked. Look at this. This one I actually translated for you. I just read it to you real quick. In 2 letters that were sent to the Prime Minister in March, in July, there was one in January too, the head of Amman, the CIA, warned Netanyahu of the perfect storm. This perfect storm is brewing from an internal conflict that is fueling the Palestinian uprising. The head of Amman Research Division personally warned the Prime Minister that the political social division give Israel ammunition to Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Wait a second, what are you talking about? What kind of internal political ammunition are we talking about? Now we are getting into the core of the issue, the heart of the matter. And we will see in a second how it's feasible. And I'm going to make it very clear that the prophet Ezekiel prophesies of the fence being broken, and this is a trigger. I'm going to show it to you today, if we have the time, a trigger for the things to come. We have just hit a major trigger in October the 7th. Something was happening internally in Israel that allowed this to happen. And it's in the Bible. So there are 3 fundamental questions that we're going to have to answer. Number 1, how did it happen? Number 2, who is ultimately behind October the 7th? And I'm going to already give you the hint. It is not Hamas. It is not Hamas. We're going to see who it is in a minute. Ultimately, it's not Hamas. Hamas executed it, but somebody else is behind it. And the number 3, something is unleashed into the world. And I wrote the follow-up book about this, the fall of Edom. Something has been unleashed to the world in October the 7th. And I hope you're sensing the world never come back to normal after October the 7th. And it's not going to. It's going to get much worse the way we are going. But how can we ultimately overcome it? It is Those are very important questions. In order to understand it, like I told you, the answers are found in the Bible. Everything that we just saw in the physical is found in the Bible. There are a few principles of prophecy and eschatology that I want you to be aware of. I'm not going to have time to go through all of them today. We just simply don't have the time. But if we are to understand prophecy and understand October the 7th, we need to look at a few of them. Okay? The first one that I'm going to talk to about Maaseh Avot. Maaseh Avot is important. It's go like that. Maaseh Avot Siman Labanim. Meaning, the works of the fathers, when we talk about fathers, we're talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or not the works necessarily, the business, the affair of the fathers is assigned for the sons for the last days. Specifically, our father Jacob, whose name is later become Israel. In essence, if we study the life of Jacob, we will see the parallel for Israel salvation. This is a chief principle of all Judaism. If you want prophecy, go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? From mem to mem, I will talk about that in a minute. Number 3, which is very important. It says in the end of the book of Deuteronomy, very soon we are entering to the book of Deuteronomy, which is the last book in the Torah, is different from the first 4 books. There is a significant difference about Deuteronomy. And here's the difference about Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy was written from Moses' first person. Moses wrote it as his personal diary. And in the end of the book, in chapter 34, it says the following. Velo kam navi beIsrael keMoshe, which translated to, and it's never risen a prophet in Israel as Moses. Before the giver of the law, before any of those things, Moses is a prophet. Therefore, when we study Torah, we have to understand Torah first and foremost is prophecy. So Torah, when we read Torah, we study Torah, we look at the weekly parasha, we should always find the Mashiach, the end days, the end times. It's always in the parasha. So this is something we have to understand, that the prophecy of Moses is a chief. This is a principle of normative Judaism, that the prophecy of Moses is greater than any other prophecy. And of course, we see it with Yeshua. Yeshua quoted Moses more than he quoted anybody else. It's the baseline for the faith, Moses, Abraham and Moses, okay? So we have to look at Torah, but Torah through a messianic lens. I spoke about already that prophecy is cyclical. And the number 5, I want to spend a second on. It says in the Talmud, all the words of the prophets, Sanhedrin 99a. Excuse me, Sanhedrin 99a. All the words of the prophets prophesies only for the days of the coming of the Messiah. This is very important. Everything we read is messianic. There is no such a thing as a non-messianic passage. Everything, all the word of the prophets are to lead the way for Messiah. And number 6 is very important. When God created the earth, Genesis 1:1, he said, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. You notice he created the heaven and the earth. Shamayim, heaven. Earth is called Eretz. Okay? It's important for us to remember that there are 2 parallel universes, and those are playing ping pong with one another. Whatever happened here is affect the heavens, and whatever happened in the heavens affect the earth. And this is going to be very important for us to understand what is happening right now in the heavens, because there is a parallel for this. And you're going to see how Hamas and what Hamas did, how it's connected specifically to what's happening right now in the heaven. So remember, if every action on earth create a reaction from the heavens. That's why when Moses' prayer in the end of Deuteronomy, he says, listen to me, heaven, speaking to the earth. He spoke to the heaven before he spoke to the earth. Why? Because they are parallel universes. And then seventh is a very important principle. It's called midah keneged midah, which really means measure to measure. God never forgets. And God always judges. He gives measure for measure, and that's going to be very important when we understand the end. So we already talked about this, but I just want to give it to you from Ecclesiastes one more time. It says, only that shall happen which has happened, only that occur which has occurred. There is nothing new under the sun. This is a principle for all prophecy. In Hebrew, ma shehaya yihiyeh. What took place will take place. Now, if this is the case, and all those principles are correct, really, you have to understand. And as I explained to you, October the 7th is direct judgment. It's not a fluke. The time is not a fluke. It's Simchat Torah. And I don't know if you know what exactly Simchat Torah Day is, but in Simchat Torah, we unroll the scroll back to Genesis and start again in Genesis chapter 1. 1 is the day that's called the joy of the Torah. When we go outside and we celebrate, is a very festive day. Okay? The picture of 7th of October, ladies and gentlemen, that you are watching right now, and we already see what the head of the Mossad says is impossible, cannot be understood without understanding what took place before that. Okay? If you really want to understand October the 7th and where we are right now on the prophetic map, you really need to understand what took place the last 3 years as we're heading to October the 7th. Okay? Everybody with me? Now, so I spoke about those few methodologies, but I want to give it to you just so you can really read it in English. This is the chief thing that we have to understand, and you'll see why it's so important in a minute. The patriarch mode of conduct should serve as a model for their descendants, meaning you and I today, when we find ourselves in a simple circumstances. In essence, when Jacob is in trouble, okay? And there are certain times in life of Jacob that he is in a very serious problems, as we're going to see. We can learn something that related all to the end time, and that's the way we interpret end time. You see how Judaism look in the interpretation of end time, very, very different than Christianity, or go straight to the prophet. Always start with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to understand prophecy. Okay? Everybody with me? There's a principle with this that our rabbis tell us in a book called Torah Roch about our time that we're in exile. Now, when I talk about an exile, I'm not talking here about physical exile. I am speaking about spiritual exile. Meaning the times prior for the coming of the Messiah. A time that we refer to toward the end, a time that is called Jacob's trouble. Okay, a time that there's a lot of trouble. Listen to this. This is a very interesting thing, and we're going to see how this is connected to October the 7th in 1 second, okay? Listen to that. He said, we are to refrain from becoming chummy with the secular authorities. I want you to really underline this word, secular authorities of the country which host us when we are in exile, seeing that friendliness by such rulers reflect only what they can get out of us and not what we can get out of them. What does that mean? That one of the chief troubles of Jacob, and when we're talking about Jacob, you know, the name of Jacob is also the name of Israel, right? It's talking about Israel, the nation of Israel. When we find ourselves in trouble, the last thing you want to do is look for external help. You follow what I'm telling you? Look at this. This is from my hometown in Israel. No, this is not from New York. This is not from America. This is from my hometown. Do you notice that what happened when October 7 started? all over Israel, people start to put this: America save us. Biden save us. We look at America to bring us salvation from what happened in October the 7th. Exactly what the Torah told us not to do. It is very, very troubling to see images like that. Friends, this is in Israel, all throughout the land. So this is something that I really want you to understand, that part of what is happening and the worsening that is happening, it is a snowball that is as a mechanism to try to divert Israel to call upon God. But the more this thing is prolonging, we're not calling it for God, we're calling for America to save us. You know what is causing God to do? To become more and more angry. More and more angry. I can tell you right now, God is completely out of the equation of this war. God is nowhere to be found. And this war is not going to be won until we find God somewhere. Exactly what the rabbi told. Be careful of secular authorities. You understand that? Israel is saying right now, most Israelis say, we cannot win without America. There's no mentioning of God whatsoever. And this is something we're going to have to look at in the text. Now, I don't know what your level of Hebrew, but I want to talk about one more principle that we're going to see later on. Remember right now, which is really appropriate to talk about, we're in a time on our Hebrew calendar, on our Jewish calendar, that is called Ben Ameitzarim. It started in the 17th of Tammuz, and we're going until 9th of Av without shaving. We are going during this time, and we're mourning because on 17th of Tammuz, there's been a breach in the wall of Yerushalayim. And on the 9th of Av is when the temple and Yerushalayim has been destroyed, okay? There's something very important about this that we're going to see, because we're going to talk about a breach in a fence, right? We're talking about breaches in fence that took place in walls. So this is what it says. Isaiah said something similar in Isaiah 9:6. It says, Lemarbe ha'misra leShalom ein ketz. Now notice something that is very important. The mem, which is one of the Hebrew alphabet, is a closed mem. It's what's called in Hebrew a mem sofit, is a final mem. Now, those of you who studied just a little bit of Hebrew, this is not a Hebrew class, but just a little bit, you will notice immediately something very strange. This mem is in the middle of the word, in the middle of the word. We should not see this mem in the middle of the word like this. It should be a regular mem. And we have something linguistically here in Hebrew. And this is a regular mem, as he says, is a warning that whether the areas which Israel excel, this will not be in evidence during their exiles. The prophet seems saying that even attempts to hasten the redemption through the Torah study, through establishing God's authority on earth, etc., will not affect God's timetable. It is though interesting that we find the exact different opposite things in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 2, verse 13. Remember, Nehemiah is called to build the wall of Yerushalayim. Right? And it's really important we talk about those things now during those 3 weeks. And he's building the wall of Yerushalayim that have a breach in them, but he's building them from the inside out. So this word in Hebrew for breach is the word prutzim, where you see prutzim having the last letter, the last word, the letter mem, prutzim. You hear the M sound, which you would expect to see a mem that is closed. But in Nehemiah case, you see the exact opposite. You see the mem open in the end of the world, From that, the rabbis deduce that there is some sort of a breach that is going to happen in some sort of offense that will be a signal for the coming of the Messiah. Are you hearing what it says? Isn't that amazing? This is just absolutely shocking. And read the verse. It's talking about a wall being breached. So we're going to look at this 2 open and close, which is really speaking about 2 coming of Messiah, but we will leave it at that. Look at this. Just as the two letters mem in the verse we have quoted from Isaiah and Nehemiah respectively contain allusion to the letter hidden from us, so, this is the key, so the unusual absence of division between the two portions, Vayegash and Vayechi. Both Vayegash and Vayechi has to do with the coming of Joseph, with the revelation of Joseph. Also contain allusion matters hidden from us, hidden from Yaakov. What does that mean in simple language? That there will be some sort of a breach that will be taking place where Yaakov will not be able to understand what is happening. You follow what I'm telling you? Yaakov is the Jewish people, and they will not be able to understand what is happening. Look with me in the passage for a moment. A passage that you're probably familiar with, so we can start now that we acquire some of our tools, trying to start to understand actually what is happening right now in the world. It says in the book of Genesis, chapter 28, verse 10, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva, vayelech Harana. And Jacob left Beersheva, and he set out to go to a place called Haran. First of all, now you understand that everything in the Torah is what? Is prophecy, right? Where is it that Jacob is going? Which place is he going to? Haran. He go to the place called Haran. Anybody know what the word Haran means in Hebrew? The word Haran means in Hebrew, hell. The word Haran literally comes from the word Haran. And this means the hell. It's one of the names of hell. So you're seeing something very important. You see, you're going to have to train your eyes now how to look at prophecy. Remember what I told you. The work of the Father is assigned to the Son. So the life of Jacob is a prophecy for the last days. So are you following with me? This is very, very important that we understand it. And Yaakov left Beersheba and he go to a place called Haran, which is literally mean hell. And we know the troubles that he had. Let me ask you a question. He's a place called Be'er Sheva. Be'er, the well, Sheva, 7, or fullness. A place of plenitude. He's leaving a place of plenitude and he's going to hell. Let me ask you a question. This is a messianic verse, I can already tell you that. But why is it that he's going? Why does he leave Beersheba? Anybody know? Why does he leave Beersheba? What caused him? The question you must ask yourself is, why is he leaving Beersheba? There's a reason why he's leaving Beersheba. We have to understand what it is. And remember, where is he going? He's going, and ultimately, who does he meet? Later down the road, he's going to Bethel, and then he get all the way to Padam Aram. Who does he meet? Who is to be his bride to be? Who is his bride to be? Jacob. What's her name? No, Yaakov. He meet Rachel. Rachel. So let's make this mystery a little bit further. And then later on, he meet a woman, a beautiful woman named Rachel. And he said, and Yaakov kissed Rachel and he broke in tears. Again, the Bible doesn't tell us why is it that he broke in tears. This is the type of question you have to ask yourself. Why he was running away? Why he was running away and why he was breaking in tears. Again, I'm telling you this, all of this is prophecy. I'm going to help you a little bit further and I'm going to ask you, who did Yaakov gave birth to with Rachel? Who was his son? Who was their son? Joseph. Joseph was their son. Joseph is a picture of the Mashiach. You see, there is a picture here of the birthing of the Mashiach. So the way Judaism says, you really have to understand why Yaakov left, where he went to, why he met Rachel, because he's going to be giving a birth to a person named Joseph, who is truly a picture of Mashiach, Mashiach ben Yosef. Are you with me? Does it start kind of making sense? So let's see that now. and we will understand it, because we want to know how is this connected to October the 7th. I'm getting there. I'm just kind of building it up for you just a little bit. So why is it that he ran? Yes, somebody that was wanting to kill him. Who wanted to kill him?
Silent.
What?
That you thought.
Yeah, brother Isaac, good old brother Isaac. Brother, let me ask you a question since you say that. Where did they fire the rockets right now to Israel from? Yeah, and before that, the one that hit Tel Aviv last week? From a place called Yemen?
Yeah,
Who is the grandson of Esau?
you know.
His name is Yemen. Do you think it's a coincidence? It's not a coincidence, beloved. If you come tomorrow evening, I will show you all the rockets and all of this. How is it connected? We are simply seeing now a boxing match that has been going on from the garden already. And then round 2 was in Yaakov and Esau. And now we are entering into the final round. Are you following this? Nothing new under the sun. Remember I told nothing new under. You're seeing the same thing. So look at this. Yaakov, Esau had a son. And his son's name is Eliphaz. We have to understand why he left. In the book of Jasher, Sefer HaYashar, we understand this. And if all of this is prophecy, you will understand when this thing, now what is happening right now in the world. Look at this. It says, and Esau's son, was a swift man, an expert with a bow, as his father had taught him, and also in the chase, and a valiant hero. And Eliphaz did as he was ordered to do by his father, Esau. Okay? And Eliphaz was only 13 years of age at that time. And Eliphaz arose and took along with him 10 of his brothers of his mother, and hurried after Jacob. Listen to this. And he kept close to Jacob, and he lay in wait for him in the boundary of Canaan, opposite the city of Shechem. And when Jacob saw Eliphaz and his men follow him, Jacob halted in his way to how do you say this word? Ascertain, thank you. What this meant, for he knew nothing about it. But Eliphaz drew his sword and advanced toward Yaakov, thank you, with his men. Are you following this? Look at this. And Jacob said unto him, what is the cause of you coming here? And what is the reason you follow me with your naked sword? And Eliphaz approached him, saying, thus had my father instructed me to do, and neither shall I depart from the orders which my father has given me. And when Yaakov heard Esau had spoken unto Eliphaz to use all his force, Yaakov came near unto them, and entreated Eliphaz and his men, saying, behold, here is all that I have, in which was given to me by my father and by my mother. Take all of this and leave me, and do not kill me. And may this deed be accounted unto thee a righteousness. And the Lord caused Jacob to find favor in the eyes of Eliphaz and men, and they listened to him, to the voice of Yaakov, and they did not slay Yaakov, but he stripped Yaakov naked from everything. All the gold, all the silver, nothing he had. He had absolutely nothing. And it continued. And Eliphaz and his men took away all that Jacob had, as also the silver and the gold, and they brought from Beersheba. Remember, he's running away from Beersheba. They did not leave him the least thing. He had nothing. And Eliphaz went away with his men, and they returned to Esau, to Beersheba, and they informed him of all that had happened unto them with Yaakov, and they delivered him all that they have taken from Yaakov, and Esau was very wroth at Eliphaz his son, and the men that were with him for failing to slay Yaakov. And they excused themselves, saying, because Yaakov entreated us not to slay him, and our compassion was arose in his behalf. Hence we took all of him he had brought unto thee, and Esau took all the silver and all the gold which Eliphaz has taken from Jacob, and stored it away in his house. Now let me ask you again the question: why did Jacob wept? He wept because he had nothing to give to Rachel. Are you following what I'm telling you? Israel today, the work of the Father is the sign of the Son. Israel will receive Yosef again only when we become naked. This is the musar of the midrash of this prophecy. Israel will not be able to overcome this Eliphaz, this enemy. Esau is Yemen. Esau is Amalek. Esau is known by many other names. He's known by the name. In a minute, we'll talk about his father. Remember, his name is Edom. His name is Edom. Edom in Hebrew means blood. We need to see who is the spiritual father of Esau to understand the root of those. But the bottom line that we have to understand that Yaakov was completely stripped naked, and only then the birthing of Yosef has begun. This is very important for all of us to understand, because there is this notion in the world that Israel is going to be good and will be able to overcome and will be able to win this war only on F-16s. Impossible. On the opposite. The more proud we are, the more arrogant we are, the more that we can think we will be stripped naked. Today, Turkey issued a warning that they're going to invade Israel if they will continue. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? We will not be able to overcome those things. Everybody understand that? So when we're looking now and you're looking for a solution and a resolution and a closure of this thing, there is none until Yaakov is coming. So who is Rachel in this story? I believe that Rachel is the remnant church. I believe that Rachel is the remnant from the nations who are somehow joining themselves to the Jewish people to usher salvation. That's what I believe, and that's also what Jewish understanding is. Where that there's some sort of union that is taking place between Yaakov and the remnants. This is incredible. I know it's something you probably did not hear before, but listen to what the Ramah. This is one of our greatest rabbis, and he says, "Why was he sent out to reach Haran? It is as he reached Haran immediately as soon as he left home." The secret of the matter is to inform us that significant is the change that is coming to Jacob's life. Just as today, significant change is coming to the Jewish people, and they're just starting to realize it. I was yesterday in the Jewish quarter in Johannesburg. The Jewish people act like there's nothing wrong. They're acting like everything is fine. And I told them, you get ready to pack up and move to Israel, because very soon you will not be able to stay in South Africa. It's the case. We as Jews are going to be stripped naked, and the only thing that will be staying for us is Hashem and Hashem alone. The Ramat continue and explain to us, in route to Haran, upon the departure from Beersheba, the decrease against Yaakov has increased. Leaving Beersheba, all the Denim come against him. And we need to talk about this. Eliphaz, son of Esau, had taken everything that Yaakov has to the point that he stripped Yaakov naked with nothing. In that, Yaakov understands the difference between being in a place of holiness or kedusha, or to get out of it. This was the sign in the last days for us today, which means that Israel is now entered the time that is known in Hebrew by the name Ribuy Dinim, meaning that there's great decrees that are coming against us. And the question is, are we going to overcome them? Only through the birth of Yosef, we are going to be overcoming them. And just to show you this is really amazing. Look at how we are introducing the scripture to Eliphaz. Genesis 36:15. It said, these are the clan of the son of Esav. This is son of the son. Firstborn is Eliphaz, which was a bounty hunter. Today there is a spirit of Eliphaz, which is coming back to the spirit of Esav. But it is not the chief spirit. Those are delivery boys. We have to meet the chief spirit behind us to know really who Israel is up against. Even the famous commentary, Rashi, comments on this, and he says, he wept because he came with empty-handed. He thought, Eliezer, my grandfather 7, had with him ring, bracelet, and all the good things, while I have nothing with me. Genesis Rabbah. This is because Eliphaz, Esau's son, pursued Jacob by his father order to kill him. He overtook him. But because Eliphaz has been brought up in Isaac's lap, he withheld his hand. He said to him, Yaakov, but what shall I do in regard to my father? All that Yaakov replied, take everything that I have, so we think like I am dead, for the poor man may be accounted as dead. Israel has to be brought down to his knees in order for this to start to be resolved only by King Messiah. I want you to understand the matter. This is very important you understand prophecy in such a way. But we still have this mysterious question that we start with. Why was the fence hidden from Yaakov? How is it even possible that you have a 40,000 census and it is hidden? Now, I want to tell you that this is, again, it is a trigger. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me show you October 7th, word for word, in the scriptures, so we will not be ignorant of that. And remember what I told you when I showed the picture of the fence. We need to understand what happened before October the 7th. So let me just remind you a couple of things. 10 days, 12 days, 13 days before that, it was Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur was the highest day on the Jewish calendar. As you know, it's a 25 hours fast. And during Yom Kippurim in Tel Aviv, where I live, there was Orthodox Jews and secular Jews calling each other Nazis with fist fights against each other. Also, there was a decree on October the 6th not to take the Torah to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv, because many of the ultra-Orthodox rabbis were saying, those people in Tel Aviv, they are not real Jews. They said this, we are Judah and they are Israel. You know, this is very dangerous type of statement to make. Complete separation outside the land of Israel. For 3 years, Israel cannot have a prime minister. You need to understand where it is. Also in the scriptures, because what I'm about to show you is being prophesied as the beginning of the end. So what is all the commotion in Israel is all about? They tried to pass a law for 3 years that called the judicial reformation. Okay? The judicial reformation sounds very nice and progressive, but it tore the country in half. Half of the country want LGBTQ, full right, LGBTQ, full right for abortions, full right to abolish the Shabbat, abolish Shabbat, meaning everything open Shabbat, full right for this, okay? The other side of the country want ultra-Orthodox not to serve in the IDF, and they want complete power and complete monopoly over everything. They want to make Israel an Orthodox country. Those two sides collapse right in the middle. And if you want to see it in the scripture, study carefully with me through the books, Psalm 81 and Psalm 82. 3 years are prophesied in Psalm 81 and Psalm 82, which really are the perversion of the justice system. And if you know one of the name of Hashem in the scripture, Adonai Tzidkenu, Jeremiah chapter 23. The Lord is our righteousness. The one thing that Hashem ate more than anything else is perversion of the judicial system. What is happening right now in America? What they announced last week? A reformation to the judicial system. Why? Because it's a mirror of Israel. It's a mirror of Israel. You know what's going to come to South Africa? They're going to try to change the judicial system. So they will tell you what is right and what is wrong. You following what I'm telling you? Everything that happened in Israel, the enemy is watching from aside. They are not stupid. And we have gotten to a point that Israel, I'm going to show you some pictures that you've never seen before, this close to a civil war. Let me ask you a question. Why the second temple was destroyed? Because baseless, anybody know? Baseless hatred. The second temple, first temple, both destroyed because of baseless hatred. When a Jew turns against a Jew, God says, time out. Time out. We're going to have a great reset with you guys. Because you are set apart, you're holy people, you're called a nation of priests. And if you do not treat each other the way I tell you to treat each other, I am going to wipe you even to the point that I'm going to have only remnant left. I want you to understand how serious it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a theory. The Bible speaks about this. Look at this. Ezekiel 22:30. And I sought someone among them to repair not the wall, but in Hebrew the word is gader. If you look up the word gader in Hebrew, you will see that you have another definition, not a wall, a fence. Listen to this, is a direct prophecy about October the 7th. And I saw someone among them to repair the fence or to stand in the breach before me or in behalf of this land, that I might not destroy it, but I have found none. This is a direct prophecy about October the 7th. Now, if you pay attention to the Hebrew carefully, and that's why it's so important. So important to learn the Holy Tongue. You notice it doesn't say fence. It uses this word twice. Gimel Daled Resh, Gimel Daled Resh. You notice it? The word is appeared twice in the text. Why is the word appears twice in the text? It appears once as a noun and once as a verb. You see? If you put the vav here, then it's the word goder, and the word gader, it's the same word, goder, gader. That's the way you read it in Hebrew, goder, gader. So why is it that the prophet Yechezkel is giving us this expression with two words? Because if you say gader is a fence, he says, I was looking someone among them to repair the fence. But that's not what he says. Really, if you put the goder, gader together, the way it should read, I sought somebody from them to become a human fence. A human fence. This is something very important. In essence, what the prophet is telling us here, that the fence is not a physical fence, it is a spiritual fence. But I could not find anybody to be this fence for me, and therefore I found none. And what happened when he found none? Remember, make a note, it is Ezekiel 22:30. Ezekiel used the same language in Ezekiel 13:5. He says, you did not enter to the breaches, and you did not repair the fence for the house of Israel, that they might stand up in a battle in the day of God. Do you follow into this language of this? It's a language. Excuse me, let me just drink something. It's a language of the end times. Now, you say, well, Rabbi Shapira, this is great you're showing me. How do I know the defense that is mentioned in Ezekiel 22:30 is defense that Hamas breached? Maybe you're making it all up. Maybe it's just a coincidence. No, not really. First of all, I want you to hear what Rashi said. He says the following on this fence, human fence. He said, you did not perform the mitzvot. Everybody know what is a mitzvah? You know what is a mitzvah? You did not perform the mitzvah of loving your neighbor as yourself to delay the evil. That's exactly what's happened in Israel. We were stopping loving each other, so God removed the spiritual faith and blinded us so people can come in. There is no other solution here, brothers and sisters. Human thought tells us there's nothing else. He has blinded our own eyes. And this fence is still lifted up. You know that last week, a rocket from Yemen traveling the speed of 160 kilometers an hour. It's nothing. What is 160 kilometers an hour? You can drive faster than 160 kilometers an hour. Was able to enter Israel, traveling for almost 8 hours, and was 50 meters from hitting the embassy. That is, it's inconceivable. The best air force in the world. And you know what they said? They said that the person, that was the headline, he was blinded. Those type of blinded is because some spiritual wall has been now lifted up from Israel because it's dependent on the way we treat one another. Look at this. Rabbi David Kimchi says, in the day of the Lord, so defense is related to the day of the Lord. In the day of the Lord, in the decree, according to Targum Yonatan, read this, by Yom Rogza, which means the fence will be lifted closer to the day of the Lord. Friends, October 7th is a warning for us that the day of the Lord is upon us, okay? If you do the mitzvot, your action will count as merit in the time of war. Otherwise, the enemy will control you. The enemy is controlling you right now because we don't want Torah. We do not want Torah in Israel. And that is our greatest shield. And that is our greatest weapon. And because we don't do it, right now there's no spirit. The spiritual mantle is lifted in Israel. But what do we do? More F-16s, more weapons, more work. Do we think, when we really think we're going to win the war? We're not. We're getting ourselves in a bigger mess. Look what's happened right now in northern Israel. Now, listen to this. This is what the rabbi understood from the word of Ezekiel 22:30. It's powerful. In essence, Ezekiel said, I was looking for somebody to rebuke them or to become an intercessor for the decree. This is the meaning of the word, that I might not destroy it. But I found out, how can you have somebody who rebuke it and we cannot even agree in what is right and what is wrong? You following it? We want to have a society like the nation, like the Goyim, that there is no right and there is no wrong. Everything is open to interpretation. You do you, I do me. Complete secular nation. They want half of Israelis, 50% of Israeli want this nation called Israel to be completely secular. God will not allow this to happen. And even if we have to punish us on our tuches and give us a big smack like October the 7th, He will bring us back to Him. You have to understand, it's going to hurt, it's going to pay. It's like when you punish your own son. You don't punish your son because you hate your son. You punish your son because you love him. This is right now, you have to understand. Israel under decree. But if Israel is under this kind of judgment, what kind of judgment is going to be upon the nations? You cannot even imagine what's coming upon the nations right now, especially the nations who turn against Yerushalayim. Wow, God help us. But wait, there is more here. The Malbim explained, he says this, I was looking for somebody who will repair the breach of the generation, or at least stand in the gap and that his merit will protect the generations, so that the destroyer, look at you. So who will not destroy it? Hamas? Hezbollah? No. So that the destroyer will not come and harm us. But I found none. Therefore I will pour out his indignation, which is the great judgment. Let me tell you something. How many of you heard about Gog and Magog? You heard the term Gog and Magog. Most people make the mistake to think that Gog and Magog is Ezekiel 38. It's a mistake to think this. Judaism understands that Gog and Magog is not a single war. It's an era. It's an era. And it's not an era of, they say exactly how many years it is. They say it's roughly 100 to 120 years. Gog and Magog era. And they also say that Gog and Magog have 3 parts to it. That was written, friends, 1800 years ago. Let's think about it. What was taking place roughly 100 years ago that have 3 parts? World War I, World War II, and World War III. With World War I, we already entered into Gog and Magog. Ezekiel 38 is just a conclusion. It's just a conclusion of this era of Gog and Magog. You hearing what I'm telling you? You are already in Gog and Magog. We are already in Jacob trouble. And right now, the force behind it is about to reveal itself. So we're going to see exactly what is the force that behind it. Now, it's this force have to have merit for the generation. You know who can have a merit for the generation? Only one can have a merit to save a generation. You know who it is. It's Mashiach. Look at this. Perhaps, the Radak says, there is a man who will fence the breaches so that the wicked will not cross over. The breaches are the transgression. Look at this. What are the breaches are? The breaches are the transgressions. And not only all transgression. Read it in Psalm 81, Psalm 82. The transgression between a man to his neighbor. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery with one. Should not, honor your family. Those type of the horizontal are just, and for the one who is standing in the gap, prevents the fence breaker. In essence, somebody have to stand up in the gap for them to be a friend in order to restore them to the way of goodness. He is standing before me to pray for the Aretz, for the land, so that it won't be destroyed. Similarly, it says on Moses. Look at this. On Moses, I don't have it, but you can write it. On Psalm 106, it says that Moses is the one who stood. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, Moses is standing between the heaven and between the earth. Okay? There's one who need to have 1 foot here and 1 foot in the heaven. It's only one. It's Mashiach. The only one who can close the breaches is Mashiach. Nobody else can close the breaches right now.